While Iceland is a lovely country to visit, there's a good chance that it might end up sucking for you or another person who might have never been here before, and here are my reasons why. First off is not managing your expectations. So Iceland is one of those places where, as you can see, we get snow, the name Iceland, we get ice. There are different types of weather conditions, there are weather warning storms, it can rain a lot. Like it's a beautiful place, but there's also a lot of variety in the weather, and not being aware of that can make it seem like you're kind of walking in unprepared for the fact that your trip might have to change due to a severe weather warning. Within that same line of managing expectations, budget is something that a lot of people don't always take into account, especially if they end up getting an airline ticket that was inexpensive. Iceland is fairly expensive, and I will in future videos go into like creating a budget for yourself depending on what you're willing to spend and your type of accommodation, preferences, and things like that. And also the best time of the year to visit the country. So for instance, if you're one of those people who really wants to see the Northern Lights, knowing and managing your expectation that if you come this summertime, you can't see the Northern Lights. In the wintertime, we have far less daylight. So the shortest time in terms of daylight in the Reykjavik area is around 4 hours, and that's in December, but it progressively gets darker and darker as we get from fall to winter, and then it brightens up again. But knowing that will definitely help you to manage your expectations so that you can plan around the hours in which you can physically see things. And even if you come in the winter time, it's not guaranteed that you'll see the Northern Lights, because it's not like you flick a switch and they just turn on, unfortunately. And I have a video that I will link for sure below in the description if you're interested in seeing the Northern Lights, that will help you to prepare, and also what kind of tools you can use to find out if the lights will be visible during the time that you're visiting. Next up is not leaving Reykjavik. Now, Reykjavik is the capital of Iceland. It's an awesome city. There are tons of things to do there. But what really, in my opinion, sets Iceland apart is the nature. And while I always suggest that people spend some time in Reykjavik, I honestly believe that if you really want to get that amazing experience and just like be awed by raw, beautiful nature, you got to get out of the city. Going out and seeing like black sand beaches, glaciers, animals that are around. So they're like horses that are grazing all time of the year, sheep, different types of aspect of life. The countryside in Iceland has a ridiculous amount of waterfalls just like everywhere. It's amazing, and I feel like it also rejuvenates people, and it gives you a chance to interact with nature that you might have not ever encountered before, just because there's such a varied landscape here. And kind of like piggybacking off of that in terms of reasons why your trip might suck is that you don't give yourself the opportunity to actually go out and explore on your own. And I have nothing against people taking bus tours or even like private tours, but I highly suggest renting a car and going out and exploring on your own. There's one road that goes around the whole country. It's called the Ring Road, or Route 1. And because it's so simple and there's so many things that you can see along this road, renting a car is super easy. And Google Maps and all of that is pretty accurate, so it makes it quite nice. And yes, I know there's some people who have some trepidation about the winter time, but rental car companies in Iceland put studded tires on their cars. It actually brings me to the sponsor of this video, which is Car Rental Iceland. And if you use my code Iceland10, you can get 10% off your full booking with them. They have amazing customer service, a great variety of cars. They're a local Icelandic car company, so you're helping the local economy. And I personally use them whenever I'm going on adventures. I absolutely love working along with them. And I've been so happy to hear from my followers, like many of you, who have used Car Rental Iceland and have had a great experience. Hey, it's Jules from Another Timeline, cutting in to let you know that actually over on Instagram, I'm having a giveaway. You could win a trip to Iceland. I partnered with Car Rental Iceland on this. So if you check the link below for that giveaway, I highly recommend it. It runs until December 24th, and you and a loved one could win a trip to this lovely country. So check it out. But over on Instagram, in one of my reels, there was a really great comments about people who would use Car Rental Iceland and how awesome it was for them. So definitely check them out. Get out of Reykjavik, go into the countryside, explore on your own, drive around, make different stops, and I just like it because you can go at your own pace. You could decide one day that you're gonna go do that, or maybe you feel like you wanna do a lot more in another day. It is really nice to be able to have that flexibility, and that's just something I personally like and suggest to people if they're open to it. Number 4 is not packing appropriate clothes based on the season. So of course people probably think of winter as being where you have to be really careful about what you pack, but actually in Iceland, all time of the year it can vary in terms of, like I mentioned, wind, rain, and in the summertime, yes, there's higher temperatures, but we're talking about like an average high of 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's not super warm here, and I believe that is why a lot of people end up feeling like it could suck for them because they don't have enough layers, or they don't have things that keep them warm enough during the different seasons. I have a whole packing list, and actually I recommend you can download it for free, and it actually gives you a packing list for summer and winter. So they're 2 separate lists because there are different needs for each season, but this is crucial. This is one of those things where if you do not pack appropriately, you might end up being cold, you might end up being wet, and that sucks, honestly, for anybody. And so I highly recommend making sure that you pack appropriately. Next up is one that probably sucks no matter where you go, and that's breaking the law. In Iceland, the things that you need to watch out for in terms of breaking the law that could really suck for you, of course, maybe the obvious ones where it'd be like, harming someone, is speeding and driving off-road. So driving off-road is different, of course, than going on like F-roads in the highlands, or even driving on gravel roads. Those are actually considered roads, whereas in Iceland, there are places where like there are big black sand deserts, but there's not an actual road that runs through them. And so if you were to go drive on there doing like donuts or something, you can get a huge fine. Or of course driving on like lava rock, or any of those areas where there's not an actual road there, and the fines are quite hefty. So for speeding, it could be more than $1,000 depending on how fast you're going. And similar with driving off-road, can be quite expensive if you're caught. And to be honest, there are Icelanders who are keeping an eye out. So just because the police are not around does not mean that if you were to drive off-road that you wouldn't get caught. In my mind, I'm not even sure why people would do that anyway, but everybody's different. And just know that your trip could really suck, particularly when it comes to your money, if you decide to break the law. I would love to know in the comments though, if any of these potential reasons for why your trip to Iceland would suck surprised you, if you thought of any that you think would be interesting ones, if you've been to Iceland before, or if you have lived here or do live here, definitely let me know in the comment section below. Just want to give another shout out to Car Rental Iceland for sponsoring this video, and make sure to use my code Iceland10 to get 10% off your full booking with them. Hopefully you use these tips so that your trip to Iceland is amazing and it doesn't suck, because who would want that? As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.